The subway car lurched violently as it barreled through the tunnel, slamming me against the chest of a stranger whose coffee splashed across my white shirt like an accusation. "Shit, I'm so sorry," he gasped, his voice a low rumble that cut through the screech of brakes, green eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made the crowded car feel empty. In that split second, before the doors hissed open at 14th Street, I knew this collision wasn't just about spilled latte. It was the unraveling of everything I'd buried deep. I wiped at the stain with the back of my hand, muttering, "No harm done." But my heart was pounding like it had recognized him from some half-forgotten dream. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with that effortless New York polish. Tailored wool coat, dark hair tousled just enough to look intentional, and a jawline that could cut glass. His name tag, clipped to his briefcase, read Nathaniel Hale, Associate Preston and Locke, a lawyer, the kind who probably spent his days dismantling lives in mahogany-paneled boardrooms. He didn't let go right away. His hand lingered on my arm, steadying me as the train rocked again. "Let me make it up to you," he said, flashing a smile that was equal parts charm and mischief. "Lunch? My treat. There's a spot in Midtown. Best falafel in the city, I swear." I should have said no. I had a deposition to prep, a life to keep neatly compartmentalized. But those eyes, they pulled me in like the current of the East River, and before I could overthink it, I nodded. "Calvin," I said, extending my hand. "You're on." That was Monday. By Wednesday, we'd texted through the night about everything and nothing. His obsession with old jazz records, my failed attempts at urban gardening in my Astoria shoebox apartment. He called me Cal, like we'd known each other forever. And I let him because it felt right, like slipping into a favorite coat on a crisp fall day. New York in November is a beast. Biting winds off the Hudson, sidewalks slick with yesterday's rain. But with Nathaniel, the city softened. We met at that falafel joint on 34th, a hole in the wall called Zara's where the air smelled of cumin and grilled lamb. He was already there, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, looking like he'd stepped out of a cologne ad. "You clean up nice," he said as I slid into the booth, his gaze lingering a beat too long on my collar. I laughed it off, but inside, something stirred. A flicker of heat I hadn't felt since college, back when I was still figuring out what it meant to want a man like this. We talked for hours. He was from Philly originally, a transplant chasing the big leagues in corporate law, but there was a weariness in his voice when he mentioned his caseload. "It's all mergers and acquisitions," he confessed, dipping pita into hummus. "Feels like I'm selling pieces of souls sometimes." I told him about my job at the nonprofit, fighting for tenants' rights in a city that chewed them up and spat them out. "Noble work," he said, his foot brushing mine under the table. "Accidental? Maybe, but neither of us moved away." By the end of lunch, he'd walked me back to my office on Park Avenue South, the midday sun glinting off the glass towers like shattered promises. "This isn't just about the coffee," he admitted at the corner, his breath visible in the chill. "I want to see you again." Dinner? Friday? My pulse raced. I'd sworn off this after Marcus, the ex who'd ghosted me mid-pandemic, leaving me with a sublet and a therapy bill. I'd built walls higher than the Empire State. But Nathaniel's hand on my elbow felt like permission to breathe. "Yeah," I whispered. "I'd like that." Friday came too fast. He picked me up in a borrowed town car, his firm's perk, he joked, and we headed to a speakeasy in the village, all velvet curtains and candlelight. Over whiskey sours, he opened up about his family. A dad who'd been a steelworker, gone too soon from the lungs, a mom still in Philly baking pies for the neighbors. "They don't know about me," he said quietly, tracing the rim of his glass. "Not the real me." The words hung there, heavy as the jazz crooning from the hidden speakers. I reached across the table, my fingers covering his. "They will, when you're ready." He squeezed back, and in that touch, I felt the spark ignite into something deeper. A quiet promise amid the clink of ice and murmured conversations. We walked the cobblestone streets after, his arm around my waist as if it belonged there. At my door, he kissed me. Slow, deliberate, tasting of bourbon and possibility. It wasn't fireworks. It was a hearth fire, warm and steady. "Good night, Cal," he murmured against my lips. I watched him disappear into the night, my chest aching with a hope I hadn't dared name. The weeks blurred into a rhythm. Stolen mornings on the train where he'd save me a seat, evenings tangled in sheets at his Upper West Side walk-up. Nathaniel's place was a revelation, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves crammed with legal tomes and dog-eared Kerouac. A view of the park that made the city feel intimate. We'd cook badly, pasta that stuck to the pot, wine that went straight to our heads. He'd quote Ginsberg while I burned the garlic bread, and we'd laugh until it hurt. For the first time in years, I wasn't performing. I was Calvin. The guy who cried at indie films, who dreamed of road tripping the Pacific Coast Highway, who loved fiercely but guarded his heart like a vault. But cracks appeared early, subtle as hairline fractures in glass. Late nights when his phone would buzz, and he'd step into the hall, voice low and clipped. "Work," he'd say when he returned, but his smile never quite reached his eyes. I didn't push boundaries, I told myself. Trust takes time. Still, doubt whispered. Who was he really? The man who traced constellations on my back in the dark? Or the one who vanished into conference calls at dawn? It was mid-December when the first real storm hit. We'd planned a weekend in the Catskills, his idea, a cabin with a fireplace and no signal. Just us, he'd promised, packing flannel and a bottle of scotch. The drive up was magic. Snow-dusted pines, Bruce Springsteen on the radio, his hand on my thigh as we sang off-key to Thunder Road. The cabin was rustic perfection, crackling fire, mugs of cocoa spiked with something stronger. That night, under a quilt older than both of us, he held me close. "I love you, Cal," he whispered, the words slipping out like a confession. I froze, then melted. "I love you too." It was true, terrifyingly so. Sunday morning, as we packed to leave, his phone lit up with a text. He glanced at it, face paling. "Everything okay?" I asked, zipping my duffel. He hesitated. Then, "Yeah, just family stuff." But on the drive back, silence stretched like the gray interstate. By the time we hit the thruway, he'd pulled over at a rest stop, engine idling. "Cal, there's something I need to tell you." My stomach dropped. This was it, the other shoe, the ghost in the machine. He turned to me, eyes stormy. "That text? It was from my ex. He's in town. Wants to meet." Ix. The word landed like a slap. I'd known about Marcus-level heartbreaks, but Nathaniel had never mentioned anyone serious. "We were together 2 years," he continued, voice cracking. "Broke it off when I moved here. Thought it was over." But the way he said it, laced with regret, told me otherwise. "And now," I pressed, throat tight. "He's married now. To a woman." The pieces clicked. The late calls, the shadows. Nathaniel's hand trembled as he gripped the wheel. "He came out last year, but it's complicated. His family's old money, Philly elite. The wedding was this facade." Betrayal twisted in my gut. Not just his past, but the omission, the half-truths we'd built our fragile world on. "You should have told me," I said, voice barely above a whisper. "From the start." "I know." Tears welled in his eyes. "I was scared you'd walk. You're real, Cal. The first real thing I've had." We sat there, exhaust fumes curling into the cold air, the hum of semis the only sound. I wanted to rage, to drive off into the snow. But love, I realized, isn't clean. It's messy, like the slush under our tires. "What do you want?" I asked finally. "You," he said simply. "If you'll have me." I nodded, tentative. We drove back in silence, but his hand found mine across the console. Forgiveness isn't erasure. It's choosing to build anyway. Christmas came softly that year. I met his mom via video, Eleanor Hale, with laugh lines and a pie recipe she insisted I try. "He's always been a dreamer, my Nate," she said, oblivious to the undercurrents. Nathaniel beamed, but I saw the strain. The closet he still inhabited for her sake. We decorated my tree with thrift store ornaments, Bing Crosby on the turntable. That night, as snow fell in fat flakes outside, He knelt by the window, head in my lap. I'm telling her. After the holidays. My fingers in his hair. I believed him. January brought the thaw and the flood. Work ramped up for both of us. Evictions piling at the nonprofit. Nathaniel buried in a hostile takeover case. We snatched moments. A quick coffee in Bryant Park. His head on my shoulder during a late-night movie. But the ex lingered like a bad aftertaste. One evening, I came home to find him staring at his phone, face ashen. He called. Nathaniel admitted. Said he made a mistake. Wants to leave her. The room spun. And you? My voice was steel. I told him no. He crossed to me, cupping my face. Cal, listen, it's you. Always. We made love then. Urgent and affirming, bodies speaking what words couldn't. But doubt festered. I started noticing things. A monogrammed cufflink that wasn't his, buried in the laundry. A charged glance at a bar when we ran into an old colleague. February's chill mirrored the growing frost between us. The climax hit on Valentine's. Ironic. Isn't it? He'd planned a surprise. Rooftop dinner at his firm's Sky Lounge, city lights sprawling like a lover's promise. Candles flickered, champagne chilled. To us, he toasted, clinking glasses. I smiled, but my chest tightened. As dessert arrived, chocolate lava cake, heart-shaped, we were interrupted. A knock at the glass door. His colleague, Mark, with a folder. Nate, emergency. The merger's imploding. He stepped out, leaving me with the skyline and suspicion. Minutes stretched. I wandered to the edge, peering down at the ant-like traffic on Fifth Avenue. That's when I saw it. His phone, left on the ledge, screen alight with a text. From E. Missed you tonight. Come over after? Doors unlocked. J. J. As in Jonathan? The ex. My blood roared. I pocketed the phone, heart shattering like the ice on the reservoir back home in Ohio. When he returned, apologetic and flushed, I held up the evidence. Who's Jay? His face crumpled. Cal, it's not. But the lie died on his lips. One time, just once after we fought last month. I was weak, stupid. Betrayal bloomed, hot and vicious. You said it was over, I shouted, voice echoing off the glass. Wind whipped up, scattering napkins like confetti from a funeral. It is, I swear. I ended it that night. Tears streaked his cheeks, but rage blinded me. You used me to fill the void. I stormed past, elevator plummeting like my trust. Outside, the February rain pelted down, soaking me to the bone as I hailed a cab. His calls lit my phone all night. Voicemails raw with pleas. Cal, please. I love you. Don't throw us away. I didn't answer. Days bled into a week of numbness. Work as armor, friends' concerned texts ignored. Marcus's ghost had been a whisper. This was a scream. How do you love someone who breaks you? But in the quiet of my apartment, staring at the bare spot where his jazz records once leaned, I remembered the boy on the train. Not the lawyer, not the liar, the man who'd whispered poetry in the dark. The confrontation came on a rooftop, his buildings, the one with the fire escape view of the park. I climbed up uninvited, March winds howling like accusations. He was there, waiting as if he'd known. Rain lashed us, city lights haloed in mist. Why? I demanded, shoving the phone at him. Still unlocked, texts damning. He didn't flinch. Because I'm scared, he admitted, voice breaking over the storm. Of losing you, of everything. My job, my family, they expect this version of me. Straight, successful, safe. But with you, I want more. I want real. Lightning cracked, illuminating his face. Vulnerable, stripped bare. I betrayed you, Cal, and myself. But I'm done hiding. Words failed me. Instead, I pulled him close, rain mingling with tears. Then prove it, I whispered. We stood there, soaked and shaking, as thunder rolled. It wasn't absolution, not yet. But it was a beginning. The kind where you choose humanity over perfection, love over the lie. Spring unfurled slowly. Therapy for him, solo sessions where he unpacked the closet's weight. For us, couples counseling in a sunlit office off Union Square, learning to rebuild on truth's shaky ground. He came out to his mom in April over pie in Philly. I waited in the car, heart in my throat. She hugged him tight, whispered, "I've always known, baby. Bring Calvin next time." Tears then, for both of us. By summer, the city thrummed with possibility. Pride parades where we marched hand in hand, his firm's tentative acceptance after he came out at the holiday mixer. Betrayal's scar lingered, a reminder to check in, to choose daily. But love, I learned, is humanistic in its imperfection. Two flawed men, bumping into truth on a morning train, building a life from the spill. We took that road trip in July. Pacific coast, windows down, his hand in mine. As the sun dipped into the ocean, he turned to me. "Thank you for staying." I smiled, the horizon endless. "Thank you for coming back." And in that moment, under the vast American sky, I knew we'd collided for a reason. Not to shatter, but to reform, stronger, truer, alive. The salt air whipped through the open windows of the rented Mustang as we hugged the California coastline. Highway 1 curving like a promise kept. Nathaniel's laughter mingled with the roar of the engine, free and unburdened. A sound I'd come to crave like morning coffee. It had been 4 months since the rooftop reckoning, and though the wound from his betrayal still twinged on rainy days, we'd stitched it with intention. Date nights penciled in like depositions, honesty rounds over takeout where we'd air the smallest grievances before they festered. "Remember that time in the Catskills?" he'd say, squeezing my knee. "When I almost lost you?" I'd nod, the memory a talisman now, not a curse. Back in New York, life resumed its frenetic pulse. My nonprofit scored a win, blocking a luxury developer's plan to raise a Bronx co-op. Tenants cheering in the hearing room as the judge banged the gavel. Nathaniel was there in the back row, Ty Askew from a mad dash from his office, his proud grin brighter than the fluorescent lights. "My hero," he murmured later, over beers at a dive in Harlem. But his world was shifting too. The merger case wrapped with a bang, his firm poached by a rival, but he jumped ship to a boutique practice uptown, one that specialized in pro bono for queer rights. "No more soul selling," he declared, clinking bottles. "Time to fight for something that matters." Yet shadows lingered. His ex, Jonathan, became a ghost we exorcised in therapy. "Closure call," our counselor suggested. A no-nonsense woman named Rita with a Brooklyn accent thick as bagels. Nathaniel dialed from her office, speaker on, me holding his hand under the table. Jonathan's voice crackled through, polished as ever. "Nate, I regret everything." Regret. The word hung, laced with old hurts. Nathaniel's grip tightened. "I don't," he said steadily. "I have Calvin. We're building something real. Let it go, John. For both of us." Click. Silence. Then Rita's nod. "That's power." Empowered, we dove deeper. Summer festivals. Shakespeare in the park, where we picnicked on prosciutto and figs. His head on my shoulder during a midsummer night's dream. "Oberon and Puck," he whispered. "Us against the world." Fireworks over the East River on the 4th, his kiss tasting of hot dogs and liberty. And the quiet nights. Him grading my terrible attempts at sourdough, flour dusting his nose like snow. "You're a natural," he'd lie, stealing a kiss mid-need. But conflict brews in calm waters. August brought a curveball, his mom's visit. Eleanor arrived via Amtrak, arms laden with Tupperware of shoofly pie, eyes sharp as she sized me up over coffee in his now ours kitchen. "So, you're the one who tamed my wild boy," she teased, but there was steel beneath. Over lunch at a bistro in Chelsea, she cornered him. "Nate, the firm's buzzing. That promotion. It's yours if you play nice." Play nice. Code for the closet, the facade. His face hardened. "Mom, I'm out. To everyone." She paused, fork midway to her mouth. "And if it costs you?" The table tensed. I interjected gently. "It won't define him." She studied me, then smiled faintly. "You're good for him, Calvin. Steady." As she boarded the train home, she hugged me fierce. "Take care of each other." September's equinox mirrored our balance, work, love, the grind. But betrayal's echo resurfaced in unexpected ways. A client at my office, a young trans kid evicted for lifestyle choices. His story cracking open old fears. "They'll never accept me," he sobbed. I held space, but that night, Nathaniel found me on the fire escape, staring at the park's autumn blaze. "What's eating you?" he asked, settling beside me. I confessed the trigger, Jonathan's shadow, the what-ifs of loss. He pulled me close. "I'm here, all in." We made a pact then, weekly check-ins, no omissions. Vulnerability as verb. Halloween crept in with mischief. We dressed as Thelma and Louise, me in a red wig and scarf, him in aviators and attitude. Crashing parties from Soho lofts to Brooklyn warehouses. At one, a drag queen crowned us cutest couple. And under strobe lights, we danced like no one was watching. But dawn brought reality. A voicemail from his old firm. "Retract the resignation, Nate. We can forget the personal announcements." Temptation flickered in his eyes over breakfast. "It's double the salary," he admitted. "Security for us." I set down my mug. "Is it worth your soul?" He chose us. Resignation email sent by noon. November's chill returned. Anniversaries marking time. 1 year since the train. We recreated it. Same car, same route, his thermos of coffee ready. "To collisions," he toasted as I bumped into him, laughter echoing. But deeper currents stirred. His pro bono case, a queer asylum seeker from Syria, hit close. Late nights poring over briefs, his passion reignited mine. "This is why," he'd say, highlighting statutes. "Justice, not just law." Thanksgiving we hosted. Potluck with friends. My roommate from college, his paralegal buddy. Turkey charred but conversations golden. As pie was served, he stood, glass raised. "To family, the ones we choose." Eyes met mine. Love unspoken but electric. Later, washing dishes side by side. Suds flying, he leaned in. "Marry me?" Half joke, half hope. I flicked foam at him. "Ask right, lawyer boy." He did. Weeks later, on that Catskills porch. Ring simple, silver, engraved with truth. Kneeling in snow, breath clouding. "Calvin Reese, be my forever?" "Yes, 1,000 times." Winter deepened, trials testing resolve. His case went to trial, high stakes. Headlines in the Times about LGBTQ+ precedent. Protests outside the courthouse. Rain-slick signs waving. I stood in the gallery, heart in throat as he cross-examined, voice steady as steel. Victory came narrow, a stay granted, hope for the client. Champagne that night, but exhaustion shadowed him. "What if I fail them?" he confided in bed. I traced his knuckles. "You won't. You're enough." Christmas redux. Philly this time, Eleanor's table groaning. She pulled me aside post-dinner. "He lights up for you, Calvin. Don't let go." I nodded, throat tight. Back in the city, New Year's Eve on his rooftop, the same where storm had raged. Fireworks burst as midnight struck, his arms around me. To new beginnings. But 2026 dawned with discord. A leaked email from his old firm. Smears, whispers of distraction tied to his outing. Clients wavered, stress lines etching his face. One night, he snapped over dinner. "Maybe I should have stayed quiet." The words cut deep, reopening scars. "You think this is easy for me?" I shot back. "Loving someone who's half in the shadows?" Silence, then apologies, but fracture widened. Climax brewed in February's fury. A blizzard blanketing the city. Flights grounded. Us snowed in. Cabin fever turned confessional. He admitted doubts, the pull of safety. "I love you, but what if it's too much?" Heart pounding, I grabbed coats. Then see. We trudged to the park, untouched white expanse, and screamed truths into the gale. Fears, dreams. The raw ache of betrayal healed and rehealed. Collapsing in drifts, laughing through tears, we recommitted. "No more halves," he vowed. Spring's renewal mirrored ours. Wedding plans tentative, small, city hall, rooftop reception. His client won asylum. We celebrated with falafel, full circle. Betrayal? A chapter, not the book. Love's drama. Suspense in the unknown, emotion in the fight, romance in the return. By summer's heat, vows exchanged under June skies, friends toasting our beautiful collision. Nathaniel's hand in mine, ring glinting. Truth looks good on you, Cal. And as the Pacific called again, I knew we'd bumped into Grace. The gavel's echo still rang in my ears as we stepped out of the courthouse that sweltering July afternoon. The air thick with exhaust and victory's tang. Nathaniel's arm looped mine. His suit jacket slung over one shoulder. Tie vanquished like the opposition. We did it, he breathed, pulling me into a shadowed alcove off Center Street. His kiss was fierce, tasting of adrenaline and the falafel we'd scarfed for lunch. Our ritual unchanged since that first spill. The client's tear-streaked gratitude lingered too. A young Syrian named Amir, clutching his green card like a lifeline. You gave me America, he'd said. Nathaniel had shaken his head. You claimed it. Back at the office. His now, a sun-drenched space on Broadway with views of Trinity Church. We collapsed into leather chairs, feet up on the desk. Champagne? His assistant quipped, popping a cork before we could answer. Bubbles fizzed as we toasted. To precedents set, to closets shattered. But beneath the effervescence, I sensed the undercurrent. A weariness in his shoulders. The way his laugh didn't quite chase the shadows from his eyes. The trial had been a beast. Depositions dragging into dawn. Protests turning ugly with countersigns spewing hate. Slippery slope to Sodom, one read. I'd shielded him from the worst, but words like that burrow deep. That night, our reception doubled as housewarming. Our new place, a two-bedroom in Harlem with creaky oak floors and a bay window overlooking the Apollo Theater. Guests milled. Rita the therapist with her rye toasts, Amir and his partner beaming, Eleanor's pies sweating on the sideboard. Jazz from a Bluetooth speaker, Coltrane's saxophone weaving through chatter. Nathaniel held court, anecdotes flying, but I caught him slipping to the fire escape, staring at the streetlights below. Penny for your thoughts? I murmured, joining him, the city's hum a distant lullaby. He leaned against the railing, wind ruffling his hair. Just, what now? The win feels huge, but tomorrow? More cases, more fights. Vulnerability cracked his voice. The boy from Philly, not the lawyer. I cupped his face. Then we fight together. Like always. His nod was grateful, but doubt flickered. We'd promised no secrets, yet I wondered. What battles was he waging alone? August slunk in humid and restless. Wedding buzz faded into routine. My caseload swelling with post-flood evictions upstate. His docket crammed with appeals. We stole weekends. A jaunt to Fire Island, where rainbow flags snapped in the breeze, bodies bronzed and free. There, on the beach at sunset, he traced patterns in the sand. Remember Jonathan? He asked abruptly. My stomach nodded. Vaguely. A weak joke. He sighed. He texted last week. Congrats on the case. Said he's proud. Proud. The word soured. And, I prompted, sand shifting under me. I didn't reply. His eyes met mine, earnest. But it stirred shit up. Old guilt. We talked it through, waves lapping as backdrop. Unpacking the betrayal's residue. How one night had nearly toppled us. How trust rebuilt brick by fragile brick. You're my truth now, he affirmed, sealing it with salt-kissed lips. Fire Island was our reset. Bonfires with strangers turned friends. Dancing under stars to pulsing bass. No shadows, just us sweaty, alive, unapologetic. Labor Day loomed, but conflict crashed early. A letter arrived at his office. From Preston and Locke, his old firm. Not a congratulations, a subpoena. Discovery in a countersuit, he explained over dinner. Chopsticks paused mid-air in our Thai takeout. They're claiming I leaked confidentials during the jump. Retaliation for everything. The air thickened. The outing, I clarified. He nodded grimly. They want my emails, calendars, the works, including us. Personal weaponized. Rage simmered. Fight it, I urged. Pro bono my ass, they're bullies. The suit dragged into fall, depositions a gauntlet. I prepped him nights, flashcards of legalese on the kitchen table, coffee going cold. His sleep fractured, nightmares of boardrooms turned tribunals. One dawn, I found him at the window, dawn gilding the spires. I can't lose this, Cal. Not you, not the life. His voice broke. I pulled him down, heartbeat sinking. You won't. But fear not. What if they drag Jonathan in? Old flames fanned into inferno. October's leaves turned blood red as tensions peaked. A hearing in Foley Square, rain lashing the columns like judgment. I sat front row, knuckles white on my portfolio. Opposing counsel slick as oil probed. Mr. Hale, your personal distractions. Did they impair judgment? Nathaniel's jaw set. Love isn't a distraction, counselor. It's clarity. The room hushed. The judge sustained my objection. Wait. But I felt the wind vicarious. Outside, under umbrellas, he exhaled. That was for us. Halloween echoed last year's abandon, but laced with edge. Thelma and Louise Redux, plus capes for flair. At a warehouse rave in Bushwick, bass thrummed through our bones, bodies a blur. But midway his phone vibrated. A text from an unknown. Saw the hearing. Hang in there. J. Jonathan orbiting still. Nathaniel deleted it, but the seed sprouted doubt. Home late. Was fading. I confronted. Why does he keep reaching? He deflated. I blocked him months ago. Must be a new number. Half-truth? The air crackled. November's chill amplified the strain. Thanksgiving in Philly. Eleanor's table a bastion, but whispers of the suit soured the gravy. Fight dirty if you have to, she advised, eyes fierce. Back home, the climax erupted. A leaked deposition excerpt in the Post. Hale's affair compromised integrity. Affair. The word vilified us, twisted love to scandal. Reporters camped our stoop. I fielded calls at work, shielding tenants from the circus. Nathaniel retreated, holing in the office till midnight. One blizzard night, echo of last winter's storm, I snapped. This is killing you. Snow muffled my shout from the bay window. He looked up from briefs, hollow-eyed. It's killing us. The accusation hung. Because of him? Jonathan's ghost. Venom spilled. He stood, paper scattering. No, because I let it. The hiding, the half-measures. I betrayed you once. Now the world's doing it for me. Tears then, hot and unbidden. I crossed the room, collapsing into him. Then end it. All of it. He did. The next day, press conference on the courthouse steps. Rain be damned. Flanked by Rita, a mere me. This suit is retaliation for living authentically, he declared, voice carrying over the patter. I'm gay, proud, and unapologetic, and I'll fight. Not just for me, but for every queer kid dreaming in the shadows. Cameras flashed. Cheers erupted. Jonathan's shadow? Banished in the bold. December healed slow. The suit settled out of court, nuisance value, their shame. Christmas in the city. Tree lit in Washington Square. Carols from street singers. New Year's on our fire escape. Champagne toasting unbreakable. Betrayal's arc. From collision to communion. Spring 2027 bloomed defiant. Wedding anniversary, vows renewed informally. Rooftop under cherry blossoms. His practice thrived. Pro bono a pillar. My nonprofit expanded. Evictions down 20%. Love's drama. Suspense in storms. Emotion in endurance. Romance in resilience. One evening, train rumbling homeward, he bumped me deliberately. Lunch tomorrow? Truth over falafel. I laughed, hand in his. Always. The cherry blossoms had long since carpeted the sidewalks in pale pink confetti by the time we boarded that familiar morning train again. 1 year to the day of our rooftop renewal. Nathaniel's fingers intertwined with mine, casual as breathing now, though eyes still darted occasionally to the commuter's sidelong glances. New York had thawed into its relentless summer hum. Tourists clogging Times Square, iced coffee vendors hawking relief. But for us, the season marked rebirth. The lawsuit's dust had settled into a footnote, a blip in legal blogs that now hailed Nathaniel as the advocate who bared it all. We'd framed the headline, crooked and yellowing, on the fridge, a talisman against future tempests. Life, that capricious beast, rewarded our grit. His boutique firm ballooned, queer-led, fierce, taking on giants with slingshots of statute. I tagged along to a gala fundraiser in the village, black tie amid fairy lights, where donors toasted his keynote. Justice isn't blind. It's bold. It's out. It's us. Pride swelled in my chest, mingled with the Pinot Noir. Later, swaying to a string quartet, he whispered, "None of this without you, Cal." The band played at last, and for a moment, the world narrowed to his cologne and the press of his palm at my waist. Yet, American dreams come laced with thorns. July's heat wave fried the city, air conditioners groaning like overworked mules. My nonprofit hit a wall, funding slashed by a new administration's Fiscal Responsibility Acts, code for cutting corners on the vulnerable. Eviction filings spiked. I spent nights drafting appeals, eyes burning under desk lamps. Nathaniel noticed, of course, bringing home Thai basil rolls, rubbing my shoulders till knots yielded. "You're carrying the borough," he'd say. But one evening, frayed from a lost hearing, I lashed, "Easy for you to say, your battles have spotlights. Regret instant but damage done." He retreated to the balcony, silhouette stark against the sodium glow. "I'm sorry," I murmured later, slipping arms around him. "It's not you. It's the weight." He turned, forgiving easy. "We carry together." August whispered warnings. A call from Philly. Eleanor's health-dipping rheumatoid flare, stubborn as her son. We flew down, Amtrak too slow for urgency. Her row house smelled of cinnamon and worry. She waved off nurses with a snort. "Just need my boys." Nathaniel read to her from Kerouac, voice steady. I chopped veggies for stew, fighting tears at her frail hand in mine. "Your family now, Calvin," she rasped. "Keep him honest." We did 3 days of puzzles, pies, porch swings. Flight home, his head on my shoulder. She's tough, like us, but fear rooted. Loss looming, the human fragility underscoring our vows. Labor Day weekend, we escaped to the Cape. His surprise, a weathered cottage in Provincetown, whales breaching offshore. Bike rides along the dunes, seafood boils under stars. One night, bonfire crackling, he unearthed a letter, yellowed, from his dad, pre-steel mill deathbed. "Be brave, Nate. Love without chains." Tears glistened. I read it after Jonathan. Thought I failed. I stoked the flames. "You didn't. You're here." S'mores melted sticky sweet. We made love on a blanket, ocean sighing approval. Betrayal's ghost, distant echo drowned in waves. October's harvest brought bounty and bite. My funding miracle, a viral op-ed in the Times. Evictions, the silent epidemic, sparked donations, board expansion. Nathaniel's firm landed a landmark settlement. Queer foster kids' rights upheld, headlines ablaze. Celebrations intertwined. Joint gala. Me in a borrowed tux, him radiant. But conflict coiled subtle. A new associate at his office, young, ambitious, eyes lingering too long. Paranoia? Maybe, but trust scar itched. "Who's Alex?" I asked lightly over brunch, spotting a text. Paralegal. Sharp kid. Neutral, but my gut twisted, echoes of Jay. We addressed it head-on per pact. Walk in the park, leaves crunching. "Jealousy's valid," he acknowledged. "After everything." Honesty disarmed. "It's not doubt in you," I clarified. "Just history." He nodded, pulling me to a bench. "Alex is straight, married. But even if not, it's you. Always." Laughter then at my flush. "Therapy's rubbing off," I quipped. "Resilience, our quiet superpower." November's gray skies mirrored introspection. Thanksgiving redux. Our Harlem table groaning. Amir toasting found family. Eleanor joined via video, pie in frame. But post-feast, Nathaniel confessed a pang. "Holidays amplify the missing. Dad would have loved this." Grief shared. A bridge. Black Friday we bucked tradition. Volunteering at a shelter. Serving turkey to the unhoused. Faces lit with gratitude. A reminder. Humanism in action. Love's ripple. December danced in festive frenzy. Tree trimming to Ella Fitzgerald. Ornaments clinking like toasts. His proposal anniversary. Rooftop dinner. String lights twinkling. Truth serum? He joked, uncorking wine. We swapped letters. Mine on the train's serendipity. His on my steadiness. You grounded me. He read, voice thick. Snow dusted us gentle. Midnight kiss sealed it. New Year's brought revelation. A package from Philly. Eleanor's quilt. Pieced from Dad's flannels. Enclosed note. Wrap each other tight. We did Eve on the fire escape. Countdown echoing. Resolutions? Deeper. Therapy ongoing. Adventures plotted. A cross-country drive come spring. Winter waned. Trials testing anew. My caseload crested with a class action against slumlords. His firm fended a backlash suit from conservative donors. Stress peaked in February's frost. A joint nightmare. Me pacing over briefs, him doom-scrolling threats. This city's devouring us. I vented one dawn. He brewed coffee strong. Then we devour back. Solidarity sparked. Shared home office, playlists fueling marathons. Victory duel, settlement signed. Champagne shared. Climax crested in March's thaw. Eleanor's decline swift. Pneumonia claiming quick. We race south, her hand cool in ours at the end. Proud. Both. She whispered. Funeral small, Philly church packed with neighbors. Eulogy his. She taught me love's quiet revolution. Back in New York, grief a shroud. A quilt wrapped us through nights. She saw us, he murmured. Healing and honoring, donating to Philly's LGBTQ center in her name. Spring's verdant push mirrored morning's lift. Wedding plans solidified. June, Central Park. Intimate. Invites out, tuxes fitted. Betrayal's old wound? Scar tissue, strengthening. Summer solstice dawned golden. Vows under the Bethesda fountain. In collisions and calms, I choose you. Rings exchanged, tears and cheers. Reception rooftop, Zara's catered. Jazz live. Toasts to truth's travelers. Dance floor hours. Thunder Road closing the night. 1 year post vows, train commute habitual, his bump playful. Lunch. Eternal. Love's tapestry. Dramatic weaves of doubt and devotion. Suspense in storms. Emotion in embraces. Romance in returns. Humanism in holding on. Through betrayals braved, we'd forged not just survival. A story. American as the skyline. Raw and redemptive.